Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in War Thunder it is time to look at a special vehicle that was added to the game yesterday, the Hungarian BF109 G2, which is found as a premium in the Italian tree. Now this was added to the game because of the national Hungarian holiday, St. Istvan's Day. And what is also nice about this Hungarian plane is it also has the camouflage of the Romanian Air Force, so you can kind of double dip with the lovely camouflages that you get. I will say I did get this vehicle through the content partnership program, therefore I was giving it for free, and I said I would review it on the channel. Now, this vehicle will set you about 4,640 GE, and you will find it as a battle rating of 4.3 in the Italian tree at rank 3, meaning that it's going to be useful for grinding out rank 4, rank 3, rank 2, and of course rank 1 of the Italian tree. So not for rank 5 and 6, you will lose an efficiency bonus, but still, that is the majority of the vehicles you can research in the Italian tree. Means that there is only 4 which you can't efficiently research. Now the BF109 G2 is found in many forms in the game already. You have the G2 Trop for the Germans, and then you have the one which I believe was removed from sale in the German premium section, which was pretty much very similar to the one that you see here. And for me, the G2 has always been the penultimate BF109, the pinnacle one which sits at a BR which is really nice. It sits at a place in the tech tree which is incredibly competitive and does incredibly well. If I just look at my statistics for my German BF109 G2 Trop, which also has some really nice skins for it, I have 131 air kills, 42 deaths, and a 70% win rate in it. This machine is incredibly good at what it does, and the BF109 G2 in the Italian tree has started off on exactly the same foot. So the BF109 G2 that I'm using right now, I am 6 kills, 0 deaths, 100% win rate in the machine. So far we have a 6-0 KD, and that's why I'm comfortable talking about this machine in this video. The BF109 couples two amazing things together. The first one is a really good climb rate and also firepower. When the 20mm, the MG151s, were changed, maybe about a year and a half ago, they became the 20mm that you wanted to use. They do a ton of damage. Any belt that you decide to take with you does an incredible amount of damage, and on top of this, you have enough ammo to be able to carry a game. Now, I personally run gun pods on the G2 because the general aircraft that you face in it are P-51s and P-47s, and even if you get into turning situations with them, which generally you don't really want to, but you can still outturn them and also outloot them with the two 20mm gun pods on it. So I don't ever feel like I ever don't need to bring the gun pods along unless I'm in a situation like a ground realistic battle where I want to carry a bomb instead. So as I said, it couples together the key elements in air realistic of climb and firepower, and also the speed and acceleration in a dive. The G2 is incredible at diving. It's also incredible at rolling at high speeds. The only time where it gets a little bit shaky is above 700 kilometers an hour. That is when your roll rate starts to dip, but it's still very good at that level. And it means that when you hear about P-51s or P-47s or P-38s, which are diving away from you, the G2 can keep up with them. And it can't just keep up with them, it can also keep guns on targets at the same time. It is an incredible aircraft when it comes to War Thunder, and easily one of my picks as one of the best tier for tier planes in the game. So to see it being added to the Italian tree is kind of a surprise, but also a welcomed one, because it means that I can now play another version of the G2, which is very strong as well. The fact is, if we have a look at the Italian tech tree, the fighter line for them, the C-202s, the 205s, the G-55s, are all incredibly strong aircraft. Even stuff like the SM-92 with the bug of its propeller hub, so, well, I believe it's a bug, It's still an incredibly strong aircraft along with the SM-91. The only place where the Italian line really struggles is either really low tier, even if you'd say it struggles, and some of the bombers. The fighter line is the best in the game, in my opinion, so the Bf-109 G2 being added to that just gives you an extra level of spice, which is always lovely to see. The other thing as well is it gives you a competent machine to be able to research the majority of the tech trees because of the rewards that it gives you. So the rewards are 426% on the RP and 570% when it comes to the SL. Now, what was kind of surprising is this is a better RP reward than its two rank 3 brothers, the Romanian Duck and also the British Spitfire, which is found as a premium at 3.3. But the other reward, the SL reward, is exactly the same as the Mark 5B Trop, and the Romanian Duck is actually better than the Bf-109 G2. So you do get a boost in RP, but it's not as strong on the SL front as some of its brothers at the different BRs or the lower BRs in the tech tree. So that is something to watch out for. This isn't as good at grinding SL compared to others. Now, does that mean it's not good at grinding SL? Well, of course not. It's great at grinding SL. So far, I'm looking at numbers of 50,000, 40,000, 30,000, 80,000 in the games that I've played, and of course, because it's a premium, you get 30 free repairs on it. The repair cost of this machine is 6,000 though, so it's a little bit higher than other premiums that you may see. So if you're looking for something to just grind out SL, there are better options around the place, including the Spitfire Mark 5B Trop, sat at 3.3, and also a hell of a lot cheaper than the Bf-109 G2. The Mark 5B Trop is an incredible plane for the Italians as well, because it matches up really well with the C205s and the G55s. One of the problems with the Italians is they can get outdone by Spitfires because of the general turn rate of them. So adding in another Spitfire into that mix to counter the enemy Spitfires works incredibly well. But anyway, back to the G2. So the G2 as well has access to some nice secondary weapons. We've already talked about the 20mm, the extra firepower that it gives you, but it also gets 450 kilo bombs, which I've never personally been able to get to work. I'm not accurate enough with them, but it does get a solid 250. And the solid 250 has 125 kilos of explosive mass. Now, there have been many aerialistic games where there's been one enemy dragging out the game or trying to survive, maybe an enemy bomber or something like that. So you can go back to base in the G2, you can get yourself a bomb, and you can go out and kill ground targets. On top of this, it means that you have an extra option in ground realistic, and at 4.3 for the Germans, you have an incredibly fun lineup to play. You know, you have, of course, the Hetzer at 4.3, the Dicker Max, which is incredibly underrated, the Panzer IV-H to crown it off, and therefore you can run this air superiority fighter in the form of the Bf-109 G2, which has a little bit of leeway to it. The problem with the Italian one, though, is that there isn't really a 4-3 lineup that you can run it with. The general lineup that you'll run at this BR is, of course, the 4.7 one with the M4 Tipo. And the Composito Tipo is a decent machine. I personally have issues with it because of its gun depression, but it's at 4.7. So you can use this Bf-109 G2 with it if you really want to. But the problem is you have, in my opinion, better options such as the C205N2 if you're going for an air superiority fighter, and also the SM-92 at that point, which has access to two 500 kilo bombs. So does the G2 fit into the 4.7 lineup? Maybe not. So we have to look at the 4.3 lineup, and what you have is a 75-46 M43, which is the best tank destroyer of the Italian tree for its BR. But you're not going to base a lineup around this because of the fact that it still is weak compared to a lot of turreted vehicles. So unfortunately, it doesn't really have a place when it comes to ground realistic, unless you want to bring along a superiority fighter which has that extra 250, and you don't want to bring the G55 Series 1 because it has a 20k repair cost. Maybe this is like the economical version of a plane that you want to bring along with your lineup, which would kind of make sense actually in the grand scheme of things. So what we have here, as I said, is a fighter which does really well in climbing. There isn't really any allied planes that it fights, because remember, it fights alongside the Germans that can really outclimb it unless they have a lot of patience, and as we've seen many times, there aren't many allied players or just players in general who have the patience to be able to get up to that 6,000, 7,000 meter range. So this getting to 5,000 to 5,500 by the time you get to the center of the battlefield means you are in a great position to be able to go after whatever you feel like. It is one of those planes that is really well balanced. It feels, when it comes to flying I should say, it feels like at whatever speed I'm able to pull any maneuver with it, and on top of it I have the great dive speed to keep up with everything. The only criticism I suppose I would have of it is if it gets up-tiered into something like a P-59 and it gets eaten by it because of its general turn rate. And yes, sometimes if you're in the BF-109 G-2 and you are at low speeds and you are turning, you're gonna feel like a barn. So just make sure not to get under something like 300 and be turning at low speeds and low altitude, because of course you'll be taken apart. But if that's not the case, then you generally do pretty well in this thing. There hasn't been many opportunities for me in a G2 to be in those positions though, because of the fact that it sets up the game so well. The fact that you get that altitude, the fact that you are able to use a lot of the ammunition to take on whatever you want. There's also a debate with the guns, what belts to take. I personally go stealth on the 7.92s with the AI and AP, and then with the 20mm, they're all incredibly good belts. This is not like something like the Hispano, which has a bad belt. Even the default belts on the 20mm MG151s are great to go for. But generally, what I do is I go for the air target belts if I'm in aerialistic, and then I go for the stealth belts if I'm in ground realistic, because it gives you that extra penetration on the AP shell, which you don't get from the armored targets belts, which would be more useful against more enemies. So overall, it's a really fun aircraft. The fact is, it does great at its BR, and it joins a long list of other Italian vehicles at the BR of 4.0 to 5.0, which are incredibly good at stomping whatever they come across. So if you want to either blitz through the tree, then obviously get the BF-109. If you want something that's going to grind USL, it's probably not the best bet. There are others out there, especially the Spitfire, which is sat, you know, at 3.3 for the Italians. That would be an easier grind for you and a lot cheaper. But if you want an air superiority fighter which is just going to do absolute wonders for you, for your confidence and for your general energy fighting ways, the G2 is the way to go. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Joseph Anders, Martinez, Mopar 1969, Moxie, Super Cacti, Uyans Terry, and Elove Goats, and of course Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.